My name's Rich. Welcome to the Inland Empire Real Estate Investment Club. This is our sircash's roundtable event. Who didn't come to the last one? All right, more than I thought. I must have seen you in my dreams. So this is the second one of this. It's going to be an ongoing event. That's basically we're just going to talk to people about how to get started in real estate, and if you haven't already started, maybe how to get better too, or maybe we can learn something from everybody else in the audience too. So the knowledge goes both ways. This event will happen the third Tuesday of every single month. And for those of you who are not aware, we do have about 6 other events every single month. The next one coming up will be this Saturday, which is our coffee event at Back Porch Homes at Riverside. And that's basically just a networking event. So there's coffee and donuts, but it's geared towards basically making the rounds around the room and trying to talk to as many people as you can. So with that being said, for those of you who are not a member, you can become a member on the website. It's iereic.org. It's $25 a month. And you get access to all the events for free, as well as some other perks. It's all on there. Pretty much everybody in the room, or a good amount of people in the room, are members. So I won't go into too much detail on that. The food for this event is sponsored by Deal Machine. If you guys are not familiar with Deal Machine, it's a driving for dollars app that makes your life a lot easier than the old way of doing it, which was driving around and writing stuff down and then going to look up the people and mailing them and calling them. It's just an app that sends them a postcard after you take a picture as you drive by, so it's a lot easier. But yeah, they're sponsoring the food tonight. So if you are interested in Deal Machine, go to the website. Again, that's iereic.org. There's a little Deal Machine logo in there. If you click that logo, you get 15 free deal credits for signing up, and then the club gets a little bit of a percentage of what they charge you to be a Deal Machine member. So it's not anything extra, it's just an affiliate link. We just get a small cut of it. It helps the club out to do more stuff like this. So with that being said, is there any questions about the event or just the club in general that I can answer while I'm up here? No? All right, for those of you that don't know, Evan is one of our mentors for the club. He's been a member for almost longer than I have, I think, 4 or 5 years. And he's basically built an empire here in Southern California. He's on his way to flipping houses, buying holds. He's got a ton of rentals, wholesales. We've done all kinds of stuff. So the knowledge is well-rounded. He's going to be talking about what to do with a deal what to do with a lead once you actually get one tonight. So I think you guys are in for a treat, and come on up.
Well, hello everybody. I'm just going to take care of this real quick. And how is everybody today? Good? All right. Well, I can tell you, I know Rich and I are extremely excited. We just came back from Masters of Real Estate, which is a event that they hold once a year in Las Vegas, and bring in some, they used to call it, I guess, the legends of real estate, some of the some of the biggest players in real estate in like creative financing and real estate tax law and flipping houses and ADUs. And they had 8 speakers that came and spoke. What was really cool about it is 3 of them had spoken to the club in the last 6 months on our event on Wednesdays, like at the end of the month. So it was really, really cool to see that, to know that we were getting some really great information. But Rich and I talked and noticed that, some time ago when we were talking about why we're doing this roundtable, is while there was a lot of great information, that sometimes one of the speakers would come in and they're talking about really, like, I don't say high-end creative financing, about wrapping this loan and putting it here and trading for that house, and it was just going over a lot of new people. And so it was like, great, when I have 1,900 houses, I can understand how I could do that, but how do I get the phone ringing? All right, so that's why we started this, to answer a lot of questions, and we're kind of just keep pulling the curtain back on what we're doing over at sircash Deals, okay? And so what we spoke about last month was really an intro to real estate investing, and it's like the things that you need to remember and kind of keep in mind when you get started. How to do the mindset, how to do how we get deals, and what books to read. One idea about a club like this is the community. Sometimes we get together, we have breakfast with each other, lunch, etc. I'm a mentor of the club. We also have, for example, I had breakfast with Jim Keller, who was one of the mentors of the club. He's one of my mentors, and he's a great guy, and we were going to bring him up at the end after through this. So when there's Q&A, etc., you can ask him as well, because he has a lot more experience than I do. He's been doing this for like 25 years, 30 years? Okay, a lot more than that, all right? So we're gonna be bringing him up and do that. And just to give an idea, I'm talking to him one day and he says to me, you know what I tell him what to say when a seller, when they're talking about how much stuff to leave? He's like, take your bonds, your stocks, your strong box with all the cash, and envelopes full of cash, take that, just leave the rest if you want. And I was like, oh, and I started using that. And you know what? It sometimes puts a laugh on people when we're talking about a small mobile home, strong box of cash or stock certificates, but they get the point, and it's like, leave what you want. And so constantly learning. We have, and I said this before and I'll say it again, we have, and I say we here at sircash Deals and Sell the House, have not arrived. It's nothing like that. I'm an active builder. I buy, fix, and flip. We buy rentals. We do Lonnie deals where we buy mobile homes, fix them up and sell them with financing, and we do wholesale deals, and we do all sorts of things like that. All right. So when I talk and some of the things, you might say that it sounds like it's not. We still work actively. We just work for ourselves. We got rid of the JOB like 6 years ago, and it was just a great thing to do. But I wanted to just say again, we're really excited about what's going on, and it's a great time to be involved in real estate, even with some of the uncertainty. You know, we just look at the next several months, what's coming up, and react to that and use the best information that we can to make intelligent decisions instead of just going in blind, okay? All right, so if you overpay for a house at the wrong time, you are going to have a problem. But if you buy it right and you can cash flow, for example, a rental, doesn't really, and you have the right financing, it doesn't matter if you pay a little too much, if you have a nice 20 or 30-year loan and you cash flowing $1,000 a month. As long as you've got that going, you're good. It really doesn't matter. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying overpay on houses at all, ever. Just sharing that with you. So I wanted to kind of do a quick review a little bit about last month. So I'm going to grab this real quick. Last month, if you pulled out how we get leads at sircash Deals, it looks like this. It's like 25 different ways. I didn't know it was out when I did it, but 25 different ways that we get deals at sircash Deals, all right? And these are the things that that we do now or have done in the past, okay? So I just kind of want to go over some of them, but like Richard said about driving for dollars, that's one of our biggest money makers. It's just drive for dollars. Yes, we use a deal machine app. Started out not using the deal machine app, it wasn't there. We drive, write it on a notebook, write all the addresses down, give it to a title company, they'd run a list, send mailers, they'd call, and then now what would we do, okay? But that's what we did. Well, now it makes it really easy with just an app, take a picture, send it at that moment. I don't have to, let me write it down, get home, look it up, send it, never send it, and then I see someone else flipping it 3 months later because I didn't do anything. It's happened to me more than once. It sucks. So with Deal Machine, what's really nice about it is that we can just drive by, take a picture of the house, send it, and immediately, depending upon when you set it up in the background, it gets sent to the owner. They call you, hey, you took a picture. When did you take a picture of my house? What's this about? All right, you get the idea. So that's something that we do. Give an idea. On average, we spend only like $6,000 a year on average with Deal Machine. Yet we make hundreds of thousands of dollars from it, okay? So you can scale up, scale down, it's just a really awesome thing. One thing about that, you can even partner up or hire a driver. We have people that drive for us. We have several people that drive for us. One's an employee. When she's not doing something else, she'll go drive around certain neighborhoods, and we can see where she goes, and we get leads. Someone will say, hey, I noticed that you sent me a picture of a postcard, a picture of my house. It's like, yeah, one of me or my team members drove by your house, identified your house. We'd love to add it to our portfolio. Oh, okay. Once in a while, someone might get upset, but just kind of, smile and kind of goes with the territory. One of the things, though, also is bird doggers. We just got several deals again from a bird dogger. Bird dogger is someone that just finds you a house. All right, I have one. I call them. It's a good friend of mine now, but years ago we had hired her boyfriend and said, hey, I pay referrals. Well, 2 of the last 3 deals she sent, between the 2, we made over $100,000 on those houses. We just wholesaled them. Made 50 on one, 60 on another, because even a year later, 6 months later, she'll send me something. And it's just like, hey Evan, I know so-and-so wants to sell, here's her number. And then we'll call her. And she's done probably 5 or 6 houses now over the last 5 years. And I know we just closed a deal. She told me about it. We'll talk about it a little later. And when we're done, we put $65,000 in our pocket. Well, some went back to her. We paid her. But you know, we never even owned the house. So it was a really good deal. It's a good deal for the buyer, who's going to have an incredible rental with it. So again, bird doggers, right on. It doesn't cost a lot of money. It really doesn't cost anything. Took her to lunch a couple times. Once in a while she'd say, hey, haven't you got $100? I'd send her $100 and keep her going. And yeah, I've just been friendly with her all these years. I'd say, hey, Aunt, can you send so-and-so $50? She's like, okay, I'd send her $50. And then 2 months later, you might hear something, but it's something again. It's not, sometimes you'll get a lot of activity from it, sometimes you don't. But over the years, we've done very well with it. Referrals, sellers, renters, family, and friends. We're in the middle of a deal right now. It's my first subject to, my first seller financing, let's call it that for a moment. And we bought a house off Deal Machine. Again, Deal Machine bought a house, treated them right. And they told her sister, who told their friend, and they said, can you call my brother? And we're in escrow to buy that house because we treated someone else right. All right? So referrals, by treating people right, they'll give you other leads. This one was almost back to back. Literally within 2 months, we got this other one, and we're actually going to buy and keep it and add it to our rental. So again, this sheet, I'm not going to go through every one of them, but if you look through it and want to know what we went over last month, this was a big part of it. And one of the things, though, I wanted to say is it's really about being your biggest cheerleader. You be your biggest cheerleader. You be the biggest marketer. I've said this before. You know, you'll see me wearing the shirt. I rarely wear an Angels t-shirt or a Dodgers. Why am I supporting a multi-billion-dollar company when I want to support my own company? Not saying you need to do that. I wear motorcycle shirts and other stuff rarely, but I do. But the idea is, again, who are you trying to support? Okay? So I know some people just say, I have an I Buy Houses t-shirt, I Buy Houses hat, or Richard's wearing one right now. And maybe you should get one, something like that. You don't have to. It's just one more thing to do. I actually have that I Buy Houses on my motorcycle. And because I had it on my motorcycle, I was riding a motorcycle with a bunch of guys. One of them starts asking me questions and became our biggest lender. Why? Because I had it on my motorcycle on a crossbar. And then he saw my Facebook posts talking about deals and then started asking me. So we here last month, we realized while I was talking to him, I'm covered in dirt at this little cafe in Big Bear, California, and this guy who's covered in dirt starts asking questions, and I realized I was being interviewed, who wanted to know if he could trust me and work together, and that was 4 years ago, something like that. He's lent me, over $1 million, and he's still my #1 investor. Matter of fact, he's texted me about 15 minutes ago going, hey, what you got? I have money, come on, what are we gonna do with it? So, you want allies like that, you want that. So just keep that in mind. I'm looking at this, telling you about wholesalers. We buy from wholesalers, even the MLS. I'm in escrow right now on a property that I just found on the MLS. I actually found it on Zillow, but it was on the MLS. But someone called me on because of a Deal Machine that I personally added where we had other rentals. And what happened is while I was doing comps myself real quick, because I wanted to call them back. I was actually doing a mentor mixer a couple months ago. I'm actually working on this and then mute and make a phone call. And while I was doing some comps, and I didn't ask my team yet on, I just looked at what Zillow and Redfin and all of them said, and I saw this house had just gone for sale, and it had a little unit in the back. And so I went to my wife and said, hey, will you find out about if this is still on the market? Turned out a pretty good friend of ours who we've done business with listed the house. And she said, Evan, love to work with you. What's your offer? I'll make this happen. And we're escrow. And it's contingent, so it's a little longer escrow. So just wanted to get a chance, look at that. You have questions later on any of these, let me know. I'll be glad to go over them. But one of the things about it you'll see is that some of it is just live your life. Okay, literally just live your life. And it could be as simple as when you're working in your office, at home, if that's where it's at, like ours, great. But you might want to get up and go to Starbucks, sit down there and commandeer a table. Put out a book, read a book, get your laptop, work on your comps, work on what you're doing, write it out, have that book out, etc. I've had people come up to me because I had a Robert Kiyosaki book and go, that's a great book, and you start talking to them. Maybe a lead one day or not, but by doing that, you see a lot of real estate agents doing that. They just want to get out of the office and just sit there and run their numbers. And it's something that can be good. I've had people chase me down out of a Starbucks. Hey, I have 6 houses. I'd love to talk to you because I don't know what to do with it. And in one of my most unfortunate situations, I wrote down his phone number incorrectly. I actually did a cross-reference of every owner-occupied, non-owner occupied in the entire high desert with the first name Mario and sent them a letter. Did I meet you at Starbucks on such and such? I spent probably $1,000 trying to do that. Yeah, it was crazy. I was in agony that I wrote that wrong. So always ask twice the phone number. Yeah, that was not fun. Yeah, so basically I just wanted you to go over that. That's how you get leads. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. If you look at the list, there's a lot of things there to do. Yeah, you can write a big check and get a high equity, non-owner occupied list that someone's owned the house for the property for 5 or 10 years. It's over 70 years of age, and hit that like everybody else. We did. We did well with it, but we kind of stopped doing that several years ago because we started doing Deal Machine, started getting referrals, started doing some other things. We were just with one speaker from Southern California, one gal who's been involved about 12, 13 years as an investor. She goes, I haven't advertised in years. It's all referral. Jim's nodding his head because he knows. Once you do it, your phone rings. Someone, hey, I was thinking of you. This person's thinking of you. Treat people right. They want to do business again and again and again. Okay? So understand that. So one of the things we were talking about was not just write a check and do a list like everybody, but build a sustainable business within your sphere of influence by letting everybody know what you do. My other son called me, he lives in Idaho, over the weekend in Masters, and he goes, I am so upset. I said, what? He said, I had a customer, he owns a store in Idaho. He had a customer come in who he's been talking to about real estate now and then for the last 2 years. Dad, yeah, he just sold 4 houses, seller financing, $5,000 down each one, for $30,000 under market on every one of them. He goes, why didn't you call me? He's like, I forgot, I just threw on Craigslist and they sold really quick. He goes, well, yeah, seller financing, low interest, and $30,000 under, 4 of them. He was upset. And I said, you know what? I told you before, put a big banner at your store. I buy houses, I buy notes, because people forget. So missed opportunity. Hopefully he puts that banner up, but just one of those things. I even told my wife yet about that. So I'm telling you, let people know what you do so you don't have those missed opportunities, because that could do it. What we're talking about today though is, and tonight we're going to talk about leads, what happens when the phone rings, okay? And so if you look at this sheet, Inland Empire, you want to follow along, it's what's really on the board. So what we're going to talk about. Last month was about getting the phone ringing. Right now it's going to be about what you're going to do now, okay? And so we're going to talk about that right now, and I said later we'll be having some question and answers on if you want to know what to do, what to say, etc. So first of all, look, you have a lead that comes in, and there's a couple things you got to ask yourself. Well, remember this, when you're sending out an ad, say you are going to do postcards, you don't want your personal cell number on that postcard you're going to send out to 500 people. Because you're going to get calls at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., because they will. It's going to happen. So remember that, okay? So you're going to want to get a Google Voice or Ring Central number. Google Voice is free, all right? I use both. The reason why I use both is because I property manage my own properties currently, but we also have rentals and we do mobile home investing. And so I know that if the Google Voice number rings, I know it's a renter that's looking for one of my, seeing if I have a vacancy, or a mobile home person. I let all those go to my voicemail. That's how I do it, and I call them back. Ring Central and everything we do, it calls, I look at it and I answer. As soon as I answer it, it says press 1, then I know it's an investor, it's a seller, home seller, that we sent something to, because that's why they're calling that number, okay? So we use both. So I can tell who it is. You can change with phone, with the actual ring and who's calling and what. You can do that. I just never got around to doing that. Okay. But when the phone does ring, you have to decide: do I answer it right away, or do I not answer it right away? That'll matter maybe where you're at. I know some people. I don't know what Jim does, but we'll ask in a little bit. I know that they want to answer. Hey, hi, this is Evan. How may I help you? And they start talking about this house, and you're standing in the supermarket. Well, maybe you can have that conversation. Sometimes you might be ordering food and you're answering. It's like you listen and say, hey, can I call you back? Because some people want you to answer that phone. I have voicemails where people were saying, hi, and they start leaving me a message. And then you hear someone in the background. If they can't freaking blah, 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 answer the phone, hang up on them. We don't want to do business with them. I actually have some voicemails in the past that they were mad that I didn't answer. Even though it was the middle of the day, I just didn't get to it. I was busy. So you got to decide what you want to do. I like to kind of take the call when I can on that and then say, can I call you back? So that they know they got a person, not some 1-800 number where it goes into some voicemail system and it gets lost. Okay, that's my preference. I don't know what you want to do, but that's what I prefer. Okay, so keep that in mind. But if you do get it, and one of the reasons why I want to been calling back is I want to get into a mindset, because I needed that. I need that few minutes of, all right, I got to get through that and get ready, and this is what we're going to do. Some of you might be great at just working right off the cuff. Okay, you've done it, but I want to kind of get into that framework a little bit. Maybe I just got in an argument with a contractor or something, right? You just want to be in the right framework. So keep that in mind. So that what happens is that when the phone rings and you got to decide which way you want to go. Always answer or not. There's no wrong answer. It's what you're comfortable with. It's your business. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Any questions on that? Voicemail, Ring Central? No? Okay. There's later. Also, occasionally we get an email. I got an email just recently. Hey, you have this, on the deal machine, they contacted us by mailing our postcard back saying, here's my email, let's talk. No phone number. So I emailed. They emailed back. I emailed back. I couldn't get their number. They didn't want it. I hate that. I try to convert it as fast as I can to a phone call. Okay? That's what I try to do. Because in that sense, it's kind of hard to gauge what's going on with people. It's kind of hard to gauge personalities and all that in an email. It's just, here's my price. And there's just not much there. I'm just not good at that. Yeah?
That's what sellers do. Sellers control that that's like a great lead.
Yeah?
Because it's a seller.
Yeah.
They're going to sell.
Right. And I offer we're within $5,000. Happens to be a duplex up in Hesperia with a 3-car garage that just heard someone was talking about converting the garages to ADUs up in the desert. So, but that's where we're at right now on that. Jim, I'll have to talk to you more about that one. But basically, when you're on the phone, when you do say you're going to call the person back, there's a whole thing about scripts. Yeah, in the beginning, you might want a script. I did have them. We did give you a couple. I created one that we used, and it worked real well for a while. But really, the problem is you don't want to sound like a robot. Hi, my name's Evan. Nice talking to you. How many bedrooms do you have? It's just no. It's like I don't need a script to go to my friend's new house that they just bought. Okay? If I'm saying, hey Bruce, this is a beautiful home. How big is it? And you tell me. That's just a natural conversation. You're telling me you just moved, right? And I say, Joe, tell me about the house where you live in. And you start talking about the house. Oh, do you live there or is it a rental? Oh, my brother-in-law hasn't paid me rent in a year. Well, now you know. All right? You don't need that. But if you feel you do, we did supply it because I understand in the beginning. You have a couple options. I have one there that's a full couple paragraphs of what we used to do. Then I realized it was better just to communicate with them. And there was a couple of intake sheets there. Those intake sheets, I just did that for a long time where I just wrote down the main questions. Like, or I just fill in main questions. What's the mortgage? 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Tell me about the house. Is it on a big lot? Is it in a corner? When was the last time you put a roof on? If you really want to ask those questions, they're there. But a lot of those, on the size, etc. You can get right off the MLS or on title. So I don't want to get too much into the specifics of the house. I'm always wondering what's going on with the house. What's their problem? What's their pain? Why'd they call? Why are they entertaining the idea of selling? Okay? You follow me on that? Someone calls. Some people will say, hey, I just want to see what you'd offer. And you're like, okay. And we'll talk about it. And it's like, well, okay, well, let me ask you. I have someone nod their head. It's like, let me ask you, how long have you owned it? I've owned it 10 years. Great. All right. Well, who lives there? You live there? Yeah, actually, I was going to rent it to my sister. She was moving in, but then her son ended up moving in last minute with no lease. He's been paying for years. He stopped paying 4 months ago. That's a deal we just did. Oh, really? Yeah, you haven't paid he hasn't paid in 4 months? Yeah, I haven't paid in 4 months. So what's interesting about that deal is that, the pain point was it's family and they wanted to sell it fast, and he was now trying to buy it and he didn't want to pay for it. And so we had to work the whole thing out. We did that deal. We'll talk more about it at the end. But basically you're going to be talking to someone and trying to get some information. But the main thing on the phone is you're really just trying to build up trust. A little rapport. That's what you're doing. You're really just doing that. You're building up trust on it and getting some basic information. All right. As soon as we get that information, though, on that first phone call, let me back up for a minute. We'll enter it into a Podio system, which is a CRM. Now, you don't need to do that just getting started. Use a notepad. I actually have a notepad here that I didn't use that one, of course, but just write down all the information, put it in. You don't need the CRM system when you start now. Just later, when you get to doing what Jim's volume and ours and some things, you need it, especially when you have a team of people to keep everything on track. But we get that information and we put it into a customer relations management software program, which is Podio for us. And once that's all entered, ours spits out what tells us about a Zillow link and all that. And I ask for what we call to get comps and a title report, so I get some information. So I have more information to call back, and now I have my questions. And I can kind of get into really what's going on, okay? And a lot of times people won't tell you the first phone call or second phone call why they're really selling. I just did tried to get a deal. Looks like I lost it. Where she told me how wonderful her first husband was who died and how wonderful her second husband was died. By the fifth phone call, the second husband was this royal guy that stole all of her money, sold out all of her houses except like 3, and ran off with someone before he died. And she was now telling me the truth after multiple phone calls. But he was this wonderful husband all the way until that. People will usually 2 or 3 times, the first is not the real answer. So understand that, just kind of keep doing that, all right? Any questions on any of that? So a lot of times you're just being a friend and trying to find out what the issue is.
Did you say you did get that deal?
I drove to Vegas to sign. I walked in the house to sign. I set up, I can be in Vegas tomorrow. Okay, I'm coming. Show up, and while I'm talking to them, I sit down. Literally, her niece was there, who's an attorney. That's her attorney that was there, like Georgia. And I'm talking to them, and I'm saying, like to start talking about it. They go, well, did you bring any paperwork? Yes. And that man started an argument. Basically, if I sign that you have our house. What I found out is that someone a couple days before showed up with what they call a quit claim deed and wanted them to sign it. And as soon as they heard paperwork, they didn't want to sign anything. So we got a common friend of theirs on who was an agent, and I said, "You're an agent?" "Yes." I said, "Thank God," because these people didn't quite understand what we were trying to do. And he met with them, looked at our offer, and they're going to put on the MLS. So it's going to hit Riverside soon, in a nice area. It sucks. So I just, drove to Vegas, saw a friend, didn't get the deal, but it's not over yet. We'll see what happens. But you do what you got to do. All right. I've driven to Vegas before and gotten leads and gotten signatures. Not this time. Yeah, Ryan.
You mentioned that people don't always tell you the truth right away.
Right.
And one of the things that I like to try and do is I like to ask the same question. I just ask it somewhat differently during that conversation to make sure that what I'm being told is fairly accurate. Because sometimes you can ask the same question at the beginning of the conversation
same response to see if it's different or really to get to the truth. Okay? Because people will do that. They're guarded. They don't know if they trust you yet. They really don't. So you want to get through that. Some people are embarrassed. They're embarrassed they got in a situation, and you got to be non-judgmental. It's like, think of a hoarder house. Okay, so sometimes you come in, everyone know what a hoarder house is. You walk in, you have to turn sideways to walk down like this, and okay, it happens. It happens. One of the speakers this last weekend said she couldn't even go in the house. She could open the door about this far. She had to walk around the perimeter of the house and then make an offer because it's just crammed full of stuff, 5 feet tall, and then trying to just sympathize, empathize with people and give them the best offer you can. Because people are having trouble and they have a problem, you're trying to solve it. You're trying to do win-win deals here again. All right, a friend of ours runs a class and he says if you're trying to deceive and steal and undermine people, here's a refund, please, there's the door. All right, don't use these to do that and take advantage of people because it's just not worth it. And it's just wrong. So basically though, like I said, when we put it in Podio or CRM, you get on the phone, you find out the real answer, or you just build more trust. I always wanted to try to set an appointment. Sometimes the appointment is nothing more than a phone appointment. Can I call you tomorrow between around 3 or 4 o'clock? Or does 3 work for you, or is 5, which is better? There's different ways you can do that. A lot of times I ask what works for you, 3 or 5. I've done those. And because a lot of times someone's out of state. And you're saying, well, that way can I go drive by the house? Can I walk the house? Well, yeah, it's empty. Go ahead and I'll go walk it. See if there's a friend in the area that has a key if they're out of state. Sometimes the neighbor has a key. Go on in, walk the property. But if you can meet the sellers there, great. If you can meet them, if not, see the house. Then meet for coffee later. I just did that on a deal. The seller was out of state, couldn't be there. I walked in and met the non-paying tenant, who was a nephew, and kind of had to deal with a hostile situation. Then met the seller the next day at a coffee house and did the deal, offered the deal then, took it back to her husband, and they actually both signed because he was still out of state. And we did that deal because they just wanted to be done, cut the pain, they didn't care. I gave them 3 offers on how to buy the house and solve the problem. And they were very happy when we did that. Okay, so try to set the appointment, and I tell you, there was nothing better though to meet the seller at the property. And I think Jim is one of the people who used to told me this: go in the worst room of the house if you can, and talk about their house when it's ceilings caving in, etc. You remember he told me this, and just stand there and then talk about why they think the house is worth what as you're trying to dodge the water dripping on it. Okay, they're kind of hard to say there's nothing wrong with the house when you have to wear a hat out to get your head wet. All right, so again, I'm learning every day. People like Jim, others, we just spend the weekend. It's a never-ending thing, and it's just awesome and crazy. So anyway, so an appointment, if you can, person's always better. Pete Fortunato, who just spoke, just said he just does everything in living rooms. I find that if I can do it on the phone and get it done, we will, because of distances here in Southern California. Someone might live in San Diego, or they live in San Francisco or New Jersey, and you're trying to do it. We do it. It's just the nature of the game, all right? So you walk the property with the seller if you can, okay? And we'll go into that, but you walk the property with the seller, but sometimes they're just not there. You're walking with a relative, or you're walking with a tenant. You're looking at, my office sent me, I'm here to take photos of the house. Is your Steven? Is your name Steven? Yes, okay, yeah. Well, what's going on? I'm not sure. I think they're getting an insurance quote. I just know that my office sent me to take some photos. Very non-threatening. So if someone says, well, I don't want my tenant to know they're going to sell the house, I do not show up in this shirt when I do that. I wear the Dodger shirt. Okay, I don't wear my Han Solo shirt that says I'm in it for the money. I don't wear that shirt. Okay, those are when you did. Matter of fact, I did show up on a house once wearing one of these shirts, and the whole time I'm just like, because I forgot that I had this on. And just don't do that. So that's one advantage not to have. That's one advantage not to have the car route. I buy houses unless you have 2 cars. Okay. So, but one of the things about it is the point is that sometimes you play a role so you don't threaten the tenant in the sense of they're worried they're going to lose their home. Remember, these are people's lives you're worried about, that you're dealing with. And a seller who's thinking about selling doesn't want to upset the tenant thinking they're going to stop paying rent or they're going to move out just on the mere suggestion that you want to sell. I know somebody that on the mere suggestion they wanted to sell, wanted to break their lease, move across the condo complex because they couldn't stand the thought of having it sold out from underneath them. Even though I think they decided not to sell, but they still broke the lease, jumped, and you know what I'm talking about. People do it, they get nervous, so don't unnecessarily scare people. So I let a lot of sellers know, by the way, I'm a great photographer, you know, and that's what we'll do. Sometimes we play the role on that. Have you done that, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you right now, one of the guys in the club a few years ago called me up, got a great deal on a property, and he went and spoke to the tenant, and mistakenly told the tenant that he was going to be buying the property. The tenant, as soon as he left, called the owner and said, "You're selling? I'll buy it." And he lost the deal. It was a great deal too.
See? That's another thing. Sometimes we wholesale houses. And Jim and I actually worked on a deal on the Riverside that he had another buyer. We were just busy. We thought about flipping ourselves. And we stopped the house from going into auction. They were going to lose the house in 3 weeks. And they had a private mortgage on it. And we had to do some work. We called them. I set up everything with the seller. Seller and I got on great. And I actually decided, I think we had like 6 flips going on and a couple of remodels and for rentals. And it was just a busy time. So Rich and Jim were on the phone. Jim goes, "I have a buyer." And so, but one of the buyers ran over to the seller and knocked and basically walked in. It's like the buyer's mother who was the money. So this end buyer's flipper comes in saying, yeah, he knew to play the game, but he brought his mom, who's his checkbook. And no one prepped her and saying anything. She goes, "Yeah, I'm the buyer, we're the buyer. Hey Evan, I thought you were buying the house." That was a fun conversation, but we got it done. It was like, that's one of my partners, and which was one of my partners, and yeah, they're gonna be buying the house, and it was an exciting time. Still did the deal, but for a couple hours there, it was a little shaky, a little crazy. But after you walk with the property or meet with the seller, and you make the offer, a lot of times when you're on the phone, you might be talking price a little bit, but if you know you're gonna meet, I'll wait until we do that. And you make an offer. And what happens sometimes you make an offer? 2 things, right? They either accept it or they don't. And sometimes if they don't, they're just not accepting it now. All right, if you look, you're gonna see on here what I put on is we did that where they said, you know, I'd love to sell, but I'm just not ready to sell now. And I wrote on there on a property, it says 5th, because it was 3 years later I bought that house. Because there was a title issue, etc., and he wanted it, and he didn't. But we had to follow up for 3 years. There was an attorney involved before, and then when I bought that house, I bought it for $40,000 more because the market went up in the 3 years. And it happens. Now, if I just said, all right, I'll just go, and then because he didn't want to sell now, guess what? I would have lost that deal. That was a good flip. And then another house, we actually keeping it. It's our mountain cabin now. We flipped the house next door, met the sellers, met the owners, and I called them and says, "Hey, you know, when my guys are working on the property and it's your second home, do you mind if we park in your driveway?" Plus, I was interested in the house, and they thought that was so thoughtful and considerate, they decided that we must be good people, which we are. And they said, "Sure, Evan." So I said, "By the way, what would you like to talk about buying your house?" And that was about 2 or 3 years, and then we just bought the house this year with seller financing, 4%, and they could call it due in amortized over 30 years, and we paid $599 for that payment, and gave them like 20 grand, just enough so they could pay the taxes on the property. That was my first seller financing deal, but it took 2 to 3 years. Okay, so even though someone might say no, it's not no forever. Okay. Keep that in mind. These are the ones that I'm just talking about, the ones that are no for now. Another one we just did, understanding someone said, they said yes, and there was a problem, and we had to work on it for a year before we actually closed escrow on it. We actually got out of contract, and a year later they called me and said, "Hey, we cleaned this problem up, we did this, we paid a little more for the property, but we got it done a year later, almost a year later." And then on another one we just did, We did it where I came in and we made an offer and it was accepted, but it was a 6-month process where we actually had to get the seller, a motel, someplace to stay because the house was condemned. So some of these times they might say no and they become yeses and they might be this long process. So understand that. So when it's not now, you want to stay in touch. You want to stay in touch by phone. You want to stay in touch by stopping by if you know where they're at. You want to send them maybe a postcard or a Christmas card. There's things you can do. I like to just call them, but I know other people that drop emails, etc. One of those that are on here, it'll say it was about a year. Yeah, we stay in touch by email mostly. I call, leave a message, they never call me back. And then it'd go for 4 months and nothing. And then they say, hey, Evan, just so you know, we're doing such and such. And then let's talk soon. And then they ghost me again for 4 more months. And I just was like, okay, well, hi. And then guess what? They called and said, hey, we're ready to sell. Come on over. Hey, Evan, the house is worth more now, right? Yeah. What are you thinking? Paid $20,000 more, but they were happy, we were happy. I have a rental bringing in like $1,000 extra a month. All right, actually like 700, but that was something that took a year to work on. Okay. By the way, driving for dollars. All right, driving for dollars again. Yeah.
Question. I'm assuming you're always trying to get them to give you a number first, or as far as price, and then second part of it is you just give one number, just stick to it, and keep following up, or how do you know that?
Great question. You guys hear the question? You always give the number first. You always hear, whoever gives the first number loses. Good point, good question. And we'll ask Jim what he does. I don't always do that. It depends upon the personality of who I'm speaking to. Plus, if I'm going to be the first person given an offer, or I'm going to give them an offer now and they're thinking of next year, I'm going to give them a higher offer. I'm going to say, well, you know, I'll give them a higher offer if I know it's going to be next year, okay? Let me just say that now. Because I don't want it to be low enough to offend them. I don't know what's going to go on. I'm going to say, I need to see it, but somewhere in this range. And I'll give a range depending upon condition. I might say, you know, 100 to 150,000. It depends upon a couple of things. Let's talk then. But I want them thinking the higher number, but I'm thinking the lower number, okay? But Jim, do you always make sure that they give you the first number, or do you just depend? If you're talking to a seller.
No, I'm just an aggressive guy. I want the deal. So I want to make a deal. And if they tell me that I'm seeing other people, what that usually means is I'm too fat, or my hair's too gray, or I hate you're an a-hole.
Right.
It doesn't mean they don't want my money. It means they don't want me.
Right. But as far as the number, you don't always make them give you a number first. It just depends. Or you give a number.
It was a gift if they give you a number.
There's his answer. Yeah, and it's a depends for me. I don't, because some people are in sales. Some of you are in sales. You're in sales, right? And if you know you're in sales, then I don't want to do that. And they go like, I'm in sales. I'm not going to give you the number. I have had someone tell me that. And so a lot of times I'll give a range, or I'll give a number, and it's like, well, based on what we're seeing and based on what you tell me, we'll give a number, all right? And we'll get into it here real quick on the making the offer and kind of question and answer. We'll kind of go over that.
How often do you do deals with that guy? But like my personal opinion is that guy is probably not going to be on my program. I'm usually the last best offer. You know, some guy like thinks he's got a bucket of gold in his backyard.
Okay.
I'm not rich enough to pay that price. So.
Everybody hear that?
Quick pause. Let me put food away so if anybody else is hungry and wants to go ahead and grab some food for work.
Okay, so we'll talk about that real quick. So dealing with an offer, I will say, like I did this with the one with a bird dogger. I pretended to be a photographer, so I didn't upset the tenant. I met with her the next day. I gave her 3 options on price, and I came up with the price. And I said, Miss Seller, I think her name was Chris. I said, I think when I'm done with the house, after I buy it, fix and flip it, your house is going to be worth somewhere between $425 and $450. Best we estimate. And I went with your house needs this much work. It's going to cost 7% to sell it with agents and fees. Let's subtract that. It's going to cost $50,000 to rehab it. If I tell them $50,000 to rehab, I say we need to make $50,000. Most don't have a problem with that. And I work backwards. We have holding costs, and it came down to about $315,000. And I said I could offer you $295,000 cash. Option one. Option two, my amazing wife, who's a Hall of Famer at her company, could probably put on the market with an unpaying tenant right now. I don't know, I'd have to ask her. Might get in the threes, 350, 390. People are crazy, who knows? Probably gonna make 40, 50 more thousand than my offer. That's enough. I actually have a sheet with 4 options on it. I wrote one, 295 all cash, and I wrote somewhere in the high threes, best guess. Gotta talk to my wife, because I don't speak for her on that. And then I wrote, how about $40,000 down, $1,250 a month, amortized over 30 years at I think $400,000. And she goes, I think we're gonna take that offer on the seller financing. And I'm like, yes. She goes, but I gotta talk to my husband. They owned a lot of the property out of state. They called me up 3 days later and said, we're taking the 295 offer. We want it to be done. We're not gonna take the extra 50,000 if they use my wife. We're not gonna take the extra 105,000 if they take seller financing. They wanted to be done. So what we did, put in a contract and sold it to a friend for $360,000. And
So
sold
you
it.
offer to make those 4 offers to them up front?
Up front. I gave them those offers up front so they could see, and it's like, hey, it's a buffet. It's a buffet, whatever works for you. So yes, you can make more money using it with an agent, use my wife because I win either way, or do this if you want the cash flow without any of the headaches of seller financing. Plus, because it's a second home, there's massive tax responsibilities for people, so keep that in mind. Yes?
Yeah, just kind of came back on this, but are you going out on the first, like, initial call with offers, or the second call?
That's when I'm usually when I'm sitting down with somebody.
Okay.
I have a sheet, I don't have it here, where literally it's sircash right there, and 1 with a line, 2 with a line, 3 with a line, 4 with a line. I usually give them 3 options on every offer now. And by the way, I didn't do that up to a few years ago. I just would do it, consistently and consistent on that. And in the last 12 months, we got a seller financing and 2 subject twos that if I hadn't asked, I never would have got. So just by asking, you get along. Yeah?
Is you figure out what you said about once you're given those options, about how many, about percentage of how many deals you get your point down subject to and seller financing, since you've been adding those options?
You know, these are the first like 3 I got, and even if I tried to figure it out, it's a small percentage. I think, didn't John Schaub say last time that it was like 5% or 3%, I think is what they saw, but our numbers would be higher in that sense for the last 12 months, but that's just it could be a fluke, and because we're not writing as many offers as we could be. But I knew by asking, we were able to pull it. We were able to arrange that. If we hadn't asked, no one would have thought of it. But again, I covered this a little bit last month, multiple offers, because then they're less likely to say yes or no. Because the big guys, Sunday, the iBuyers, well, with one less now, they're not making those offers that I know of. Maybe they are here and there. I know they partner, some of them will partner with them and for a flip. But the point is, you give them offers to see what they're comfortable with, okay? And I have done that over the phone. It's extremely hard to do over the phone. Usually I'll say, we can do this, how about I put in an email and email it to you? And you can see it. Just like in an email, what we're offering, and then they'll let us know. And we're in a contract right now where we met in person, talked about a seller financing deal, then had to talk to the daughter who got involved in the transaction, had multiple phone calls, then explained 3 options on the phone, and then said, I'll put it in an email and send it over. They responded back, we want this, how about that? And we set up an offer, DocuSign, and sent it over, and they signed. Whether we close that deal or not is a totally different story. I think we're gonna back out of that one. Any other questions at the moment? No? Okay. So basically though, in that case when we made the offer, they just accepted, you open escrow. A lot of people go, Who here has ever opened an escrow? I've opened an escrow. Who else has opened an escrow? Okay. All right. Everyone know what escrow is? I'm going to use my terminology, so if I get something wrong, please, the agents in the room, do not jump all over me. Basically, escrow is a third-party service offered, and what they do, and they are I'm losing the word right now. They have a fiduciary duty to be neutral. They basically take the information from the contract, and they take that we've agreed to, and they take the purchase and sale agreement, etc. They'll take it, turn it into escrow docs, and like I said, it's layman's term, put in escrow docs, and they put in what our agreement is, and they send a buyer's packet to us, a seller's packet. The other person, they work with title and they work with title, make sure there's title insurance on the property, and make sure that person really does own the property, to make sure that nothing else is going on. It's not someone saying they own the property, and they take care of it. So they open up an escrow account. When we open an escrow account, we do it with $250, okay? And Jim, you want to correct me on what escrow is? That's what escrow is to me, all right? You don't have to know the exact legal definition. In some states, they use closing attorneys. In California, we use title and escrow, okay? Some states, when you hold property, for example, in California, you hold with a grant deed. Some states you use warranty deed or special warranty deed. They have different layers, etc. You don't need to know all that at this point. You don't. Your escrow can tell you, and we could talk about it. If someone brings up the word quick claim and grant deed, we can talk about that. But it's not germane to what's going on here right now, okay? So we'll kind of do that. You want to add anything to that? Okay, so we'll open escrow, $250 EMD, and then we got to decide what we're going to do with it, okay? What we're going to do with it. Because now you're in escrow, but what are you going to do? You got to decide now what? Are you going to wholesale it, flip it, or turn it into a rental? Let me ask you guys, why would someone maybe keep something versus selling it? Anyone have any idea besides the one person I told earlier? Why would we keep something versus selling it? Miguel.
In their age, like at which point they are, maybe they need quick cash today rather than like an extra $400 or $500.
Okay, but I could close quickly on any of them. So why would I keep this versus selling something? Maybe I want cash flow, right? Maybe the seller is giving the seller financing. If they're going to give me 4% over 30 years, do you think I necessarily want to quickly wholesale that? No, I want to keep that. Now, it doesn't mean you can't wholesale it. Another discussion for another time. But that's a whole other thing. But I'm going to keep that. I want that cash flow, especially if it's going to work and give them a small down and have a nice 30-year mortgage. I'll take that. It could also be, that's one. It could be a matter of actually on the form here I have some of them with the answers on there already on why someone might do something. And if you get the idea, rental why, it could be because you have great financing, low interest, long term. Maybe great cash flow, great area. Maybe it's in your target area. That's why you're going to want to keep it as a rental. And there's tax advantages to keep a rental. Maybe it has minor repairs. It's just carpet and paint, and you don't have to do anything. And you're like, well, it doesn't take much money to get in that. Maybe it's not a big rehab. You don't need to put $100,000. You can literally give them $5 grand, $10 grand, or you just buy the place, and you don't have to do anything. All right? There's all sorts of options there. And going with that, with a wholesale, why would you wholesale it? Maybe you have no money in the bank. Maybe you have no crews. Maybe it's outside your target area. Someone just traded us a property for one house and cash in another property because it's outside their target area and closer to ours. You don't know, okay? So it might be outside your buying parameters. So you might say, you know what, I'm going to keep this house, but that house I'm going to wholesale. Why? Because a lot of equity, we can make $60,000 really quick, which we can use to fund this 2 rentals that I'm buying. Understand? So someone goes, well, if you're wholesaling, it must not be very good. Some people think that. It's like, no, it's just because maybe we're having trouble with crews. Maybe we're having trouble getting roofing material, which I just heard yesterday. We can't get roofing material, flat roofing, sold out for 2 months. And crap, what are we gonna do? So maybe you go, you know what, I'm gonna avoid that. I'm just gonna wholesale some stuff. Sometimes we wholesale, sometimes when we flip, we're only flipping it because we were busy, we wanted to wholesale it, no one bought it, we'll flip it ourselves. But every property we buy, when we do it, we can either flip it wholesale it or keep it as a rental of a cash flow. Because in our market, I'm not buying $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. I'm an escrow for my most expensive house right now ever, and it's $410,000. And I'm taking over the payment and giving them $40,000, okay? So you have to decide. So if you said, hey Evan, if Bruce came to me and said, Evan, I got this great $800,000 house, it's a great flip, it's worth $1.1 million, I'm gonna say, great, let's get that on a contract, package it up. Hey Jim, you want an $800,000 house right now? I'll call a bunch of people, we know, we'll actually go to Richard and he'll get rid of that to someone. I don't want to touch it, it's outside what I do. You all right? But that's just, you follow me? So there's these reasons why we do certain things, etc. Any questions at the moment? No? Everyone understand that? Why you might want to keep one versus sell one? Okay. Especially in the beginning. What?
Chances are pretty good though, when you put it under contract before you went to escrow, you already kind of had an idea,
Yeah.
obviously.
Usually you already know. You really do usually know what you're going to do with it. It's just in the beginning, you might go, well, I got into wholesale, I want to wholesale, because you don't have any money, you don't have this, and you haven't thought of partnering with someone like us or Jim or whatever, or wholesale it to it. And you're not sure, and you don't have that crew and whatever, so you just, I'm going to wholesale. Okay? And then you go in there to do it, next you know, they give you seller financing and a Keller deal, and you're like, I don't know how to do that, and you walk away. I've heard that happen. You had no idea what to do and just walked away because you just, nope, wholesale, I got a wholesale, I got a wholesale. Yes? Yeah.
So why are those houses at that range of what you do? Like 800,000, 900,000. So at what point have you figured this is not where I would want to go?
Great question. Everyone hear that? Why did I decide an $800,000 house is not for me? But, by the way, it would be if I could get a $1,500 mortgage payment on it for 30 years, well then I'll do it, all right? But the idea is we worked into doing entry-level homes, 150,000, 100, 150, 200,000, and we do pretty well with it. And I actually, this is one of the things that we talked about for a minute last month. A lot of people, you're going through life, we go to our work, we go home, and you don't have anyone to talk to about finances. You don't have anyone to rely on to say you're in a jam and you don't know what to do except the parents or maybe a brother who's in the same financial boat you might be in. Because I've been in that situation. One of the advantages of being even a club member here is that you have each other and you have some of the mentors. I asked a question in front of the panel a couple days ago, Masters of Real Estate, and while I'm done with asking the question, and they gave me an answer, which, since it's a new situation, had to do with forbearance right now, people not making a payment. And I get a text from someone sitting behind me who's sitting over there in the same capital and going, Evan, I know about that, let me talk to you about it. Okay? And so where I'm going with that is that we have people that we can rely on to ask, should I do that? I told Jim, I had someone came to me, who I met at Chipotle, by the way, where I go eat. I'm telling you, make it your home. Doesn't have to be there, wherever you're comfortable with. Came in and we tried to do a couple of deals together. And he had come across a $1 million house in Corona with great views. And I went, guess what? That's not my market, but it sounds like it could be a great wholesale deal. He was friends with the sellers. Let's go. And I went, I know someone, because I know I'm not buying it. I called Jim. Hey, Jim, you got some time to look at this $1 million house in Corona with killer views? He says, sure. So we went and walked this house. Remember that house up on the hill? It's awesome. And you know what he says to me? Evan, you seem to have a great niche right where you're at. You're doing well. Why would you want to do that? On these bigger things, that's when you can lose. You might make 200,000. You can lose 100,000. And that's when it gets a little like, all right, you find someone else. And my friend who had the friends with them was only listing 20% of what he could do. And that's just when he just had too much what he wanted to do, because he was also an agent. And anyway, he never did anything with it, actually. But because sometimes you respect someone who tells you, stay where you're at in that sense, and we did. That was like 2 years ago, and I'm glad we did. Yeah.
I have several answers for that question. The medium home price in Riverside what is it? Is it 550? So what that means is 50% of the home buyers can afford $550,000. He didn't sit, if the medium home price was 800,000, I think that an $800,000 flip would be a great idea. But if you're reducing, my guess is if half of the population, half of the home buying population could afford 550, how many can afford 800? I bet you the number's 20%. So you're reducing your who you can sell to dramatically. So that right off the bat, that's why I don't like those kind of deals. So second item that I would know is, do you have any idea the availability of that beautiful? It's you know, like a quartz with the inlaid arabesque gold. They're beautiful, right? Everybody loves it. I mean, I love going to the tile store and seeing it. You can't get it. It's not available. And when it is available, it costs $28 a square foot. And the guy who normally installs for you for $4 a foot now wants $16 a foot. And he's going to mess it up anyway. He's going to mess it all up. And what are you going to do? Tell him to take it out?
And one of the things with that, even in Orange County, it's an $800,000 house, which is far more common, and a lot of people can't afford it and do $700,000, $800,000. When I have money lenders lend me 90%, 95% of the purchase, because I do it myself, and I'm buying an $800,000 house, I'm coming up with 80 grand on just the down payment to get into it. That means my payment's going to be $5,000 a month. If I hold it for 6 months, that's $110,000 just before I even start working on the house. So now if I do a $50,000 or $60,000, $80,000 or $100,000 flip, I'm in $250,000 for one flip. I'd rather be into it for $60,000 or $80,000 total or $120,000 total and make $50,000 or $150,000. I can do 4 deals that are easier to convert to rentals if anything goes wrong than I can and just deal with that one thing. Yes, Ryan.
I'd rather earn $100,000 spending $300,000 than spending $1 million to earn that same $100,000. Or to lose, because if prices start adjusting and it's a 10% correction, my $400,000 house that or $300,000 to $400,000, I'm losing $40,000. So now I'm still making $60,000. Whereas if I do that on that $1 million house at $100,000 and there's a 10% price correction, I just lost all my profit.
See, everyone understand that? See, there's multiple reasons. Like, to give you an idea, everyone's different. We talked about this before. We did last year like 35 deals, 33 deals. Now, half were mobile homes. Some are rentals, some are flips, some were, and you're fronting. Sometimes you're fronting 120,000 on one of them, 50,000 on another, 60,000, and then 12 to 20 on a bunch of them. And you're fronting hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or I can do one big deal. Those are the reality of it. Some people can do $10 million houses. They got the budget. We don't. So we stay, because just what he said. I buy a house for $70,000, $100,000, $150,000, flip it, make $35,000, and we only spent $35,000. That's a great return. Okay? Because when you buy an $800,000 house, you better make a $100,000, $150,000, because those margins, when you're done, those margins can disappear really quick on a large house. Okay? Now, the wholesale one, if I know I'm going to wholesale, I could see doing that. We made a joke about wholesaling, trying to wholesale one of Joe Pesci's house, the actor. One of his houses in like Venice about 4 years ago. We almost had it under contract. It was a couple $1 million. It was in Venice. I think it was Venice. Anyway, we didn't get it, but we were trying because we thought we had a buyer, and we were kind of playing around. And again,
you're talking about ultra sophisticated buyers that, like I'm a dumb real estate agent, and I was a contractor and a loan officer, and I got like 9 hats. Really, what that means is I failed at most of everything, and I got good enough at one thing, and I did it well. The people, like I've done these deals. I worked as a consultant for a large flipper where the buys were 800 to $1 million. We did $600,000 to $800,000 rehabs. We were selling for $3 or $4 million. They were dream products. These were like stuff you see in magazines. They were beautiful deals. The sponsor, the head guy, made less money on those deals than I made on shitty little houses in Riverside. Okay, and the guys who ended up like selling these things to, if you wholesale them
can see, there's lots of reasons. And again, I took Rich, he and I years ago went to a training, and the guy started in his district, and he lived in San Francisco area, so he started learning the flipping, wholesaling, everything, $1.5 million houses. That was his market, what he did. Great, because that's where he lived. I live in the Inland Empire. We're able to do a lot of deals. We buy a lot of houses that are $100,000-$200,000. And the last several, we paid $90,000 for one we just closed a little while ago. We already flipped it and sold it. But you get the idea, okay? Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily thinking of a single family home, but it's like a multi-family, you know, it's a apartment, it's a small.
Well, then it's a different situation, because you're now talking about not too many of those are owner occupied. You're talking about investor owned, probably, especially. Well, now it's a totally different thing, because you're buying not because of the flip or the cash flow on one rental. You're talking about 8 units or 10 units. It's a totally different game, different attitudes, different numbers. You're talking your cash and cash returns. It comes to a different animal. And then now, sure, now you're talking, you bring a 10 unit, let's talk. Oh, it's $2 million. Where? Different. We're talking mostly single family, 1 through 4, okay? But a $800,000 4 unit, we might be interested in, depending on what city it's in, okay? Because now it's like, well, what are the rents? It's a totally different direction, okay? I understand. So, but single family, yeah, I'm just not going to touch it for our cash reserves, what we do. But I am going to see if there's someone in Jamaica, can I help? I'll point them to someone else. We got something, a house, actually it's a mobile home. Someone inherited it, and I called a friend and said, look, this is outside my area. How about you take it, you run with it, you get anything, you know, maybe you take me to dinner, I don't know, we'll work it out. I don't really care. I just want to help them with their problem, and it's just outside of my area because it's close to LA. I just, no, because it's in a park, and I don't want to talk to my wife, hey, would you like to list this house? And she's like, not out in that way. No, not for that value. It's like, okay. Can you answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on those? Okay. Well, one of the things that we're going to, real quick here, is I wanted to tell you exactly what we said I'm talking about a deal in San Bernardino real quick, and the conversation I had, and what we did and how we closed it. I found it from a bird dogger, same bird dogger, just did this other one. We made $50,000 on that one. She came and said, hey Evan, I have a friend that inherited a house 30 years ago. Her brothers have lived in it ever since and never paid one dime in rent. She's now desperately in need of money, and she can't afford both houses, and her husband has cancer, and there's a hole in her kitchen, in the ceiling when it rains. You know, she basically had a tent in her kitchen, and she doesn't have a heart. Well, she keeps asking her brothers to pay rent, and they're not going to pay rent. So what do? I'm like, yes, I will be, you know, let's talk, etc. You know. So went right over there, realized I met the guy because we were trying to get the house next door. I met him like 6 months before, and he remembered me. So I'm a photographer, did not work. Nope, did not work. He's like, weren't you? And I was like, luckily he said it before. He goes, don't I know you? And I was like, oh yeah, think fast. And I was like, yeah, actually I'm here to look at the house. I just came right out. He goes, hey, what's going on? My sister's selling. I said, you know what? She asked me to take a look at it because I know she's in a jam and needs to talk about it. Well, I hope she doesn't sell it. Well, can I see it? Sure, come in. The guy obviously had been, you know, drinking a little bit. Him and the brother. Addiction is just a terrible thing. But there's obviously issues there. So we walked in this house, and it's like basically walking on raw concrete. There's 10 dogs in the house. You got to be careful, you know, don't breathe too deeply, hurt your lungs. That's why I think COVID was real easy with me, because, you know, some of the stuff we smell over the years, not an issue. Doesn't have a, not a chance of harm. Anyway, it really was bad. You were like, open the door, and there's like urine running down from the knocked over bottles. It's pretty bad. And so I looked at the house and went over, met with the seller, who was this nice lady, and sat at the living room table looking up as this massive hole in the drywall where last time it rained, it was coming down, and she had half a tarp still hanging, and she goes, yeah, my husband he was sitting on the couch, just recovering from chemo, he just went back to work yesterday, we have no money, we're barely holding on to this house, and I can't afford the taxes anymore, the upkeep, they're not doing anything, and I have to sell. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Well, can I help you with this? Anyway, she's like, if I could just get the money, and we inherited. So I just sat there and listened to her, and we talked over a couple days. Went there for a little bit, said, let me go see the house, and tried to find out how I can help you. What do you want? She wanted them gone. She wanted money. She didn't care if they were going to be on the street. She was done because she was worried about her family. Her grandkids lived with her in a converted back unit. And so she was just done with it, and she needed help. So what we did is we went looked at the house, talked, came back, gave her 2 options at the time, because I wasn't doing this, I wasn't asking this a couple years. This was last year. I would have given a 3rd option at that time. I think it's about the time I was starting. We'll pay cash. All cash. My wife could list it, but with 2 people not paying rent, not being very friendly, a bunch of dogs, it wasn't going to go over well to list it, because they could just say no, not going to see it. So seller financing, even though I was offering it, there's just nowhere to go because she wanted the money. She needed the money. So we offered forget where we started. I think we offered like $120,000, $130,000. But when I tell people, hey, I'd like to offer you $140,000, really, it's really a $165,000 offer, $160,000. Because if you had to sell it with the cost of an agent and escrow and title, and the average cost to do mild repairs just to get a house ready, it's like $5,000 or $6,000 on one study we saw. So you're looking at, when you see 140, you're really going to walk away with more like 140 in that range, because it's really like 165. So don't think. So I always say that.
Do you ever guarantee the money to them?
I have done a net offer. What he said is that you ever guarantee the money. I have done it where they said, Evan, I don't care what number you write as long as I net $132,500. And you write it, go, okay. And well, that's going to be this, and you work backwards to get a number to send to escrow. But you write it in the offer, you will net extra. We just did this actually. Just remember, we just did this like right now.
If you write in the contract that you are responsible, that this buyer is responsible for $132,500 to go to the seller, you don't have to worry about doing the math. Just write it in the offer, and then you'll be short to close. You'll be short to close a number. You'll be short $6,000 to make up the net check to the seller.
So it's a good way to do that. The only caveat on a net offer is I do bring up one thing, because well, not so much on a net offer, but on an offer you're going to make about 140. I'll say, except there's this thing called California withholding tax, especially if it's a second home. They want to borrow your money at 3 1/3%, so it's going to be about 10 grand. You may or may not get it back. And I will tell them that is just, there's nothing new about it, because you might get it all back next year, and I'll go into it. I try not to do it too soon, but I do expect, so it's not a surprise at closing and nearly scuttle the deal, because I've had it. So we could talk more about that when we did it. But anyway, on this particular one, we quickly closed on it. We got on a contract, called a buddy of mine, and he bought it from us at $190, just as COVID hit. But as we were talking to her and gave her the offer and how we did it, it really was, how can I help? What can I do? I see you in a lot of pain. Well, here's some options. I always offer, if you're listed with an agent, you might make a little bit more, and sometimes it could be $50,000, $80,000 more, and a lot of people say, I need it now. Okay, but I'm always trying to do what's best for them, because they remember. I want to be able to sleep like a baby at night, and no, I don't mean wake up every 2 hours and crying. I just mean I need to know I can sleep without an issue, all right? And that's true. That's what we want to do. This subject to, there's a deal in Apple Valley. We got a deal on Deal Machine, and that was the one that was a referral and everything. I said, hey, let's list it. You can list it with my wife. She could do it. And we actually put in a contract. It didn't sell for the price we were hoping. They came back and we opened up a subject to where I'm buying it, subject to their financing and giving them cash. And the conversation went with, how much do you need? What's going on in your life? And they go, we're in forbearance. We haven't made a payment in a year. We want to move to Nevada and we need X amount of dollars. And we worked it out. And I said, I can give you this, but I think you'll make more if you just list it. And they went to list it, and the market started dropping all over Apple Valley. And once it got down to about where my offer was, I don't care, I'm taking a 30-year loan over. I'm like, good, we opened escrow on Thursday or Friday. So I'm giving them some cash. I get this 3.5% loan for many, many years, and it'll be a great rental, and we'll net like $1,200 a month after expenses because there's another unit on the property. So again, I try to give them the most money so they could walk away with $80,000. This way they're walking away with about $40. Okay? And then the last one, we're talking about this Lake Elsinore one we did. Deal machine, I drove, took a picture, and the guy called. I went over there, and he had 5 other buyers there because he was selling it. And I just was one of the first people there, and I realized I wasn't going to be the last, so I wrote it a little higher, and I just closed that way. I just said, Zillow says it's worth $120. I knew I'd rent it for $1,800. I'd be able to get it for $1,000. So I wanted the $800 cash flow, and that's what we did. So I paid more because it was a rental, and I wanted it because I knew the area. And the conversation was just like, don't show this to anybody, but this is what I can pay. I don't need to see it again, other than a drive-by. I don't need to ask my brother-in-law, my father-in-law for money. I'm good. Here's my offer, because I was the first guy there, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. We got that offer it's signed about a week later. Okay, so just sometimes if you're going to be early, you might want to go higher. You can always ask for a reduction later. Okay, you can always ask for a reduction later. And I don't like playing that game. I know some people do. Go low, go high, get on a contract, and then later pull the rug out from underneath them 3 days before escrow. I've done that less than 10 times in my entire career, and I tell people that. I really am trying to be right on the money. Okay? Any other questions? Anyone have any thoughts? Any thoughts on phone conversation with the seller? Anything like that? Anything on any other subject? Yeah, you go.
So in the beginning, we were talking about like your CRM, and then kind of were like, don't worry too much when you're getting started. Like, how did you get started? Like, what did you use? Like, just your Google phone number, Google Calendar, and that's it? Or?
Google Voice, yes, Google number.
Okay.
Yeah, I have that number, 909-293-9001. Still know it. I wanted an easy number to remember, and that way I had something so my phone would not blow up at odd hours. I could call for it or not. And that's why that and a notebook, literally. Actually, it was a yellow legal pad. And this is where I tracked everything so I could follow up, and I did that because I didn't know Google and spreadsheets and all that. I'm sorry, I'm not that guy. And it worked until start making money, then hire someone to do that. Rich, how long did you spend on Podio the first 6 months when we were trying to figure it out? It was expensive.
Long time.
Yeah. There are some things there. There's some sheets you'll see on there, like someone's like Matt's top 3 questions and another person's top 3 questions. I wrote that from some notes from a seminar years ago. I tried. A lot of them worked. Like 3 questions I always try to get in there. Sure, it helps. After a while, you kind of get your own thing. And you're just trying to convey, just be straightforward in that sense. Be honest and try to just solve their problem. It really doesn't matter as much what you're saying, as long as you're really being empathetic and trying to solve their problem. Okay? You follow me? Jim, you want to add to that on that part versus the script?
No, I think that everybody in the room, including myself and Evan, were secret agents. You don't tell enough people. You just don't tell enough. So like I was talking to someone earlier up front, every one of those people that came in to help us tonight, you should have pitched it. Everyone. Like you meet a bump in the parking lot, you pitch them. You go to get some gas, you pitch them. Like when I was young and hungry, that was just a few years ago, I pitched everybody. That's how you do deals. When you're young and you're looking for a wife, you smile at every woman that'll look at you.
And when they say no, when you ask them to go out, they go no, and you ask them again later, and they say yes, didn't stop you.
I don't mean to be negative, but that's what your problems are. You're not asking enough people. So if you've done 6 deals this year, and you want to know why you're not doing 22 deals, it's because you're not talking to enough people. If you have not done 1 deal, if you don't even know who an escrow officer is, find a deal, and you have to use an escrow officer. you'll meet me,
Right.
believe me.
Right.
You're just not talking to enough people. Go home tonight, like I did my best work after these kind of events, because I would go home and I would, sit in front of my computer. First of all, if you didn't ask for everyone's business card, you're stupid. I'm just going to say it, okay? So you're stupid, okay? And so yes, are you going to do this with Daniel? Maybe not. But what you're going to do is you're going to send an email to Daniel, and you're going to say, Daniel, boy, that Jim was an idiot, okay? Whatever you're going to say, you're going to type it out, okay? And then he's going to answer back because he's bored, because he's not seen enough people, and then you guys are just going to do this back and forth, and then he's going to go, oh my gosh, I met this great escrow person. Oh my gosh, I just met Ryan. Ryan's got money to lend out. That's how this happens.
Right.
It's not an accident.
And last month when I was talking, we were talking about your sphere of influence and getting everybody that you've ever known, etc. And I told a story about having breakfast with somebody. And the second we sat down, before I could say anything, I said, this guy said, oh, I used to work right here and I sold houses to the waitresses here and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, the waitress knew that they were a real estate investor, and that was Jim. So those of you here last month, I was talking about him. We had breakfast just a little while ago, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I used to do this, I did it about a week ago, but I used to do this regularly, take your business card, right on the back of the server, great service, wanted to say thank you, because sometimes people are freaking rude, leave a nice tip and leave that business card. Do that 100 times a year. What happens in a year, 2, 3, 4, you start, okay? And I know people that have gotten a deal from that, I have not. But I have gotten good conversations out of it with it as they saw it as I was thank you for saying that, and catch me before I leave the door. I have had that. But just that type of thing, like he said, everybody, you don't want to be that secret agent. Don't try to, okay, when I get big and successful, then I'm going to tell my brother-in-law what I'm doing. Don't do that, right? Do not do that.
Your brother-in-law is never going to like you.
Right. You had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned that you guys use the machine.
Yes.
How do you target the areas that you're going to apply for? You guys put zip code?
Great question. He wants to know, how do you target the areas that we target? First of all, you got, like last month we talked about, when you assess yourself, you got to decide what areas you want to target. Some people have a bicycle rule. I do not. Which means if I can't bicycle to it, I don't want to work it because it's too far. I don't subscribe to that philosophy. My philosophy, if I could drive an hour and a half to go to work where I didn't want to go, and then back 3 hours a day, I could drive for myself and make a lot more money. That was my attitude, right? I'll go where the deal is. Now, there's some consideration on holding and how often to work and where you're at. Maybe it's a high crime area, whatever, where people break in more if you're trying to do a flip. So you have that. But what we do is we identify an area that is, everything I do is pretty much off the 15 and 215 corridor, from Barstow down to Wildomar, let's call it, Menifee, somewhere in that area. Southern Riverside County, okay, that's really our area, but all the way up to the mountains, and we'll do everything around there, out to Lucerne, etc. So anything in there is our area, okay? So what we do is we pick a neighborhood and you're driving, literally taking a picture of the houses that look distressed, need love, or is the nicest house in a bad area you might contact because they want to get the heck out. You just don't know. All right, and if it's in a war zone, in an area that's really rough, a lot of us call it a war zone, A area, B area, C or D area, you might buy it and wholesale it out. Now, I started buying properties in what we call a war zone, very rough area, lower income, and it was a problem. But I started there and I was buying properties and eventually sold all those rentals because it was too much maintenance and we got away. I was having this conversation with you earlier about that. Because you did the same thing. After a while, the maintenance isn't worth it and you want to trade those properties one way or the other up to nicer neighborhoods. And now we own a lot in nicer neighborhoods than that war zone. And the phone calls and problems came way down. Okay, we also got rid of a lot of small multi-units and went mostly single family, even though a lot of them are mobile homes, etc. Guess what? Problems went way down. And when you self-manage like I do, but if I was starting over, I wouldn't. But you do that, that matters. Okay? So if you're going back to the question, if you're, say you're in an area and the housing is is an area that you want to target because you decide to after you look at it. You have to talk to Jim, talk to me, and maybe it works for you. Maybe it's close to your house, you drive, look for the house with a tarp on the roof. Look at the one with a car. Those are the obvious ones, with a car on jacks. Maybe a burned out house. Or maybe the house that needs a little bit of work, maybe peeling paint. And sometimes it's every house on the street, and sometimes it's every 10th house.
Are you driving like an hour,
Yeah, what I'll do, here's the thing, I put it in on that list, you'll see on how we find deals. There's a part we'll add that you can either, some people say, I'm gonna go Saturday instead of watching the TV at the, Netflix that Saturday, you go out and drive for dollars all day, great. I've done that, but usually what works best for me, because I'm running all over the place, like one of the Lake Elsinore deal that I did, if I have an appointment somewhere, I'll go 15 minutes early. Like last month, we came early and we drove around, and I was doing Deal Machine before this meeting last month, because I'm there 15 minutes early. If I could do it after, I would, but we don't do it at night. And by the way, if there's children outside, do not be taking photos. If there's people outside, I will take pictures of a different house, of somebody else or a different house, and I'm ready with a business card. And that's another reason why I wear my shirt, because I've had people chase me down and look. And as soon as I see that, I'll go, and I'll kind of roll my window down and I'll kind of go up to them, shout out, go, hey, I'm a real estate investor, I'm running comps, I'm just checking values, and almost every time I've never had a problem. I just didn't want to keep. They do. I had someone chase me down 3 blocks in their car and cut me off because there were break-ins. I was in Barstow and there were break-ins in the area, and I was like, you know what? I do want to invest in the area because there's someone like you watching out. So yeah, and I give them my card. Hey, I pay referrals. Seriously, we did that. So you wanted it, but by the way, when I sometimes will drive up the street and down the street, up the street, and I've done it, realized there might be a child outside, and I stop driving back and forth because you don't want to. That's the stuff you don't do. I own a van. I do not drive for dollars in my van, and I'm not joking. I do not do it. I have done it for my motorcycle, and I've gotten leads for my motorcycle. We don't always close them, but I have gotten leads. I'll go out and ride motorcycles. And it is my wife said, go ride motorcycles and find us another lender or find us another deal. She told me that. So there's just things you can do, but you got to kind of assess where you want to go and maybe the price point. Okay, well, I want to go where they're not $800,000 houses, maybe. I want to go where there's 300 if you want to flip. And Jim, what do you identify also?
Well, I was just going to say, I forgot the author's name in the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Stephen Covey.
Begin with the end in mind. So I like driving through the bird streets in Beverly Hills and looking at the $28 million homes, but I don't drive for dollars in Beverly Hills at those houses because I'm never going to do that deal. So you should all be listening to what Evan said about San Bernardino. Okay, so there is not an area of San Bernardino you can't do a deal. Okay, you can do a deal now. Do you want to go on Highland and 10th and do a deal? I don't. Okay, but maybe if you don't have a lot of choices, maybe that's the deal you get. Okay, that's when you buy $78,000 houses, by the way. Okay, and and by the way, 20% down on $78,000 is, help me guys, it's like 15 grand. Okay, you're gonna fix it up for 30, so you're in the whole deal for 45 grand, and I bet you make $100,000. That's why I don't want to do an $800,000 job. So I just know it's San Bernardino. It's these areas that your stuff's not going to get ripped off on when your heating and air guy comes to the house. And also, but real quick to interrupt you, Jim, on that turnout can be a great rental. The value for if you had to keep it because it was a downturn, not that we're always planning that, but it could be a great cash flow. San Bernardino is a cash cow as rentals. Some of my first ones are there, and I will never sell those. Begin with the end in mind, though. Right. Right. How are you going to get rid of it? What are you going to sell it for? How many buyers are in the market can afford a $300,000 house? Well, you can't live in Southern California if you can't buy a $300,000. Every house we buy, we already know what we're going to do with it. It's just sometimes it changes, and that happens.
that it might change after you buy it because you got another deal or two and now you're fronting money differently. And that's what happens when you do multiple deals. Doing one, you're still getting your first one. It's a lot different. You're like, I'm looking for my first flip or wholesale. Sometimes the terms or the price dictate what you do, because you might say, Jim might run up to you and say, hey, I'm sitting on 300,000 cash, I'm ready to go. And you go, hey, I just got this deal, guess what? Now you have a partner who might be able to do something, or you wholesale it real quick. So it might change. Well, I was gonna flip it, but you know what, I'll wholesale it with him. Okay, we're wrapping up here. I just wanted to, this part of it, one second, Ryan. Just wanted to say, keep in mind that if you want to contact me, some of my information, a lot of you have it. I think it's on one of the sheets, but you also reach me through the club. If you find that one of the things about us, about our mentors here with the club, is we really want to help and do things like this, and we love working with new people, especially when you're struggling. And you have a choice. They talked about it this weekend at Masters. You can go out there and spend $100,000, which you're learning here tonight, which you've been learning. You can do it. There are guys that'll take your money, and it may be worth it. You can make a lot of money if you do it. And if you did that already, and my hat's off to you. But you can do it without spending that. You can do that, and a big thing, it really hurts us when we come across someone and they go, well, I took this class, I spent 30 grand, and then I spent 30 grand setting up my companies, and actually I'm out 60,000, I'm out of money, I can't do a deal now, and they're frustrated, they're upset, and their wife divorced them over it. Yeah, it happens. And so, versus in the club, 25 bucks a month. Really what we're talking about. It's something that we do. So I wanted to point out that with the club, because one of the things about it is that you have questions, etc., and we really want to help. We do business together. I've done business, with Ryan. We've spent some time with Miguel, and definitely done business with Jim. Last month we had a guy in here that we did a lot of business with currently, and so we do business together. Okay, and there's a lot of things there, and I just wanted to tell you that with the club, it's something that once we came in and started really started doing a lot of things within the club and started utilizing the best way we can for information, networking, etc. Our business exploded. Deal Machine was part of it, but the community of this, and when you were here last month, you remember I talked about who you hang with. Was that saying, show me your 5 best friends and I'll show you how much money you make, tell me what their income's in, you'll figure it out. So, and I talked about this motorcycle trip I took for 2 weeks out in August. Right? 3 of the 4 guys on a trip were all retired or no longer jobs from real estate. All right? My other buddy who still works for Edison is one of my best friends. I love him to death, and he's a great guy, but he's not negative. So my point is understand that when you're out there going, I want to make a lot of money, I want to flip houses, and you have that brother-in-law that tells you, oh my God, you're going to lose money. Don't you know what happened? Look what's going on. Don't you see the ship's off? Bah, 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 bah. And you can get really easy to go, you know what? Netflix sounds a lot better. Don't do that. One of the things, the best thing about life, okay, the best thing about life is no matter what's happened, whatever you've done now, that it's your move, and tomorrow's a new day. So whatever you do, it doesn't matter what's happening today. All that matters is what you choose to do today, tomorrow, okay? So, in the words of Josh Altman, it's your move. All right, and thank you, and we're gonna do some networking. I think Richard has a couple of things to say, and Jim, thank you for some of those. We're gonna be around for a few, and otherwise. Yeah, I have a question. By the way, last thing, seriously, you have questions? Ryan's full of wealth of information. Jim, get these guys' time. I'm serious. If you try to hire Jim, literally, let me say this. If you try to hire Jim, say, Jim, I want to hire you for what your time worth, you'd be paying him $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for an hour. Literally. I have an investor friend of ours that's charging $1,500 for lunches right now. Is it worth it? I bet your ass it is. But you don't need to. Okay? I just say cost of Chipotle for me, maybe a cup of coffee for him. Andy, Red Robin. Anyway, I just had to say that. Sorry.
Awesome. Good stuff. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We're going to do a quick haves and wants for members. For those of you who are not familiar with haves and wants, it's basically your time to get in front of the entire group. And if you have something you're looking for, or you want something, or you just want to introduce yourself to people, you can go ahead and do that. So any members out there want to start us off with a have or a want? We can run up here if you want. Come on up. Mr. Jim.
My name's Jim Keller.
30 seconds.
You can reach me at 951-880-8646, 951-880-8646. I need a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I'd like to be able to clean it out and list it on the MLS. That's what I'm doing right now. If the roof has been torn off of it, if there's no drywall on it, I'll definitely come and do the deal with you. But I'm really looking for something I can clean the carpets, mow the lawn, and list it within 5 or 6 days. And I'll take you guys along for the ride, and I'll show you when I cash a $60,000 or $70,000 check at the close. So that's the deal I'm looking for, and I'm waiting for your call.
All right, cool. Jim, any particular city?
All over, I mean, do I want to go to Palm Springs? Not really. It better be a good deal.
But you will.
I'm ready to go.
All right, sounds good. Any other members want to do have or want real quick? Don't everybody stand up at once.
I will. I'm in the middle of converting some shorter term notes that I have that are backed by mobile homes on land. I am looking to convert them to 15 and 20 year mortgages. They are between $35,000 and about $100,000 each. They pay between $450 upwards of over $1,000 a month. I'm not so concerned about the interest rate. I just want to make that it's a fixed term, 15 years, 20 years, amortized. And as long as the payment's a certain range, I'm willing to talk. So if you know anyone that's looking to beat the 1/10 of 1% the banks are, to have it backed by a cash flowing rental property, then feel free to reach out to me. And that's something that I am looking for. And I'm always looking to buy a property that makes sense, if it pencils. If you're not sure, hey, maybe this will pencil or not, I'm not sure about this deal, give me a call, you know how to reach me, or call Jim, or even call Ryan, and call Rich. You know, we're here. So if you're not sure if it's a deal or not, just feel free, give us a call. We'd love to run the numbers, okay? All right, thank you.
Sounds good. Ryan? He needs a chair.
I'm Ryan Raven, and I'm always looking for a couple of things. Number one, I'm always looking for funds. If you are interested in making your funds work for you, I have been a hard money lender. I've been a lender for about 30 years, been a hard money lender for the last several years. I come across deals on a regular basis. Jim has come to me for money. Evan's come. I mean, I have people coming to me for deals looking for cash. If you want to make your cash work for you, you know, I do run across that on a regular basis. The other thing I'm looking for are, you know, possible partnerships with people. So if you run across a deal and you might not have the cash to get it done, and you're considering wholesaling the deal, but you'd really like to do a deal, give me a call. I might be willing to partner with you on the deal and kind of walk you through it and help you out one way or another and get you into your first deal or your 100th deal, whichever way it is. So awesome. Feel free to give me a call. My name's Ryan Raven. My number is 951-543-2846. All righty? Thanks.
Thanks, Ryan. Any other members out there? All right.
How many members are here?
Hang on, we're gonna. Yeah, raise your hand if you're a member. All right, Steve. Yeah, come on up, Steve.
Hi, my name is Steve Gotti. New member actually since this last meeting. So thanks, Evan, for getting me to sign up. It's your great presentation. So I have a property that I own free and clear out of state in Ohio. I'm trying to get some of that cash out of the house so I can buy some other deals. So looking at someone who has cash at the savings account, but they want to get some better interest than they get in their savings.
Awesome. Cool.
Oh, my number is 951-662-7832.
Stay up here for a second.
Oh, okay.
All right, if I call your name, go ahead and come up to the stage. Stanley. Come on up, buddy. Hector, Brandon, Glenn, Steve. Audrey, Joe, those are the people I know that are here. Jeff, if you're here, Julio, Krishna, if I didn't miss you, and Tommy, I don't think they're here. But come on up, stand in front of the camera. Steve, you're the lucky one. Right? We're gonna learn how to do has and wants here. Go ahead and fill it in, guys.
Hey guys, I'm Hector. I'm an out-of-state investor. I buy in Texas. Stand here?
Yeah, hang on 1 second. Go ahead and get it. Go ahead, everybody. Come on. Come on. Here, keep going. Yeah, just come down. So the people on the stage are our newest members. Let's go ahead and give them a round of applause. Thanks for joining. We're going to make you comfortable doing halves and wants. Steve already went. Hector?
Hey, I'm Hector. I own property in Texas. I've been buying for 15 years out there, and I do 2-3 flips a year here. So looking for deals as well, like everyone else. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds good.
Hector, see me after me.
If you're not sure what to say, guys, you can start with what brought you here and what you're looking to get into, okay?
My name is Glenn Nelson. My wife Kelly and I are real estate agents. Been doing that for about 17 years. We've got a couple properties that, latest one we just bought and rehabbed it, and talked to a gentleman in the back. What we're going to be doing is building an ADU in the back because it's 1/3 of an acre. So if anybody has any assistance or insight on the ADU process, we'd appreciate that.
Glenn, why don't you tell us what an ADU is real quick?
Accessory dwelling unit. And in Riverside County, you can build up to 1,000 square foot home on an existing lot that's detached from the main home on the lot. So,
Right on. It can be attached as well.
yes.
Cool. Thanks, Glenn. Stan?
Stanley Miller. I'm a dentist and just trying to get into the real estate market.
What area are you focusing? You want to do flipping? You want rentals?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a good answer. Joe?
Yeah, Joe Gazzetta, but I think I've been a member here for several years because I'm the only one with a badge. Nobody else has.
Joe has. He got lost. He has rejoined us.
I didn't know I had lapsed. But anyway, so I have a few small investment properties that I've had for a long time, so I have good equity and taking some cash out. So looking for investments, either cash investments or possibly some deals to buy some rental properties.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Right.
Jeff Bullock, new to the club. Don't really have any idea exactly what this is all about so far, but want to learn more about real estate and just looking to get some knowledge.
Right on. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
So my name is Audrey Dutchover. I have a huge interest in real estate. I hear that wholesaling is a good place to start, so I'm here just to gain some knowledge, gain some courage to hopefully get out there and start doing deals. So.
Awesome. Where are you based at?
I live in Pomona.
Pomona. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Now that I put you guys on the spot, don't be afraid to do has wants next time. Thanks. All right. With that, just wanted to announce again that Saturday is our Saturday morning coffee event at 9 a.m. in Riverside. And let's see here. If you guys haven't heard already, we're going to basically do like a kind of a holiday party. So December Saturday coffee is actually going to be our Saturday like holiday breakfast. Instead of just coffee and donuts, we're going to get breakfast burritos. We're going to do a raffle, get some other stuff planned. So that will be on the 3rd Saturday of next month. I'm not sure that. I want to say it's the 18th, but don't quote me. That sounds wrong already. But yeah. So 3rd Saturday, 9 a.m. we're going to do a holiday breakfast party. Members, of course, are free as always, and if you're not a member, there'll be it's like $15 to get in. So we'll hope to see everybody on Saturday and next month. And if you need any info on anything, just go to the website. Again, it's iereic.org. Everything's listed on there, all the events, all the info, all the stuff about becoming a member, all that good stuff. So, and if you have any other questions about the club or signing up or anything with membership, find me after or anytime. Cool. Thanks, everyone.